Okay guys, I'm going to start this video here by working through a couple examples from the problem we did in class today. So as an example, I'll do letter A. So we've got some quadratic that has roots x equals 3 and x equals 17. So we're going the other way, as the title of the section said, working backwards. And we find our two factors of x minus 3, x minus 17. And we know that we can multiply those together to get our quadratic. So try not to cut too many corners here, but 17x minus 3x plus 51. So my quadratic equation with roots 3 and 17, or one of the possible quadratic equations I should say, will be x squared minus 20x plus 51 equals 0. That would be okay. Equals y, however you want to write that. Okay, so that's letter A. If you need that rewatched, I did go through that relatively quickly. Go ahead and back the video up there and watch that again. Letter D is the one that caused a lot of commotion here. I'm going to do letter D the exact same way I did letter A. If you're struggling with letter D, essentially what you're saying is you're totally comfortable working with integers, but when it comes to something other than an integer, like a irrational number here, 2 plus the square root of 3, that throws you for a loop. Okay, and that would fit the description of most students, a lot of people, but it's the same exact process. So I'm still going to subtract 2, subtract square root of 3, so I can set this equal to 0. X minus 2 plus square root of 3 equals 0 over here. And then I am going to multiply my two factors together. Okay, but this will be, this will be a trinomial times a trinomial. So we're going to have, I'll color code my distributing. We're going to have 3 terms times 3 terms, so I'll have 9 terms in my answer. So this is going to get really long here. X times the square root of 3 be x square roots of 3. Distributing a negative 2, I'll circle that so I remember, negative 2x plus 4 minus 2 square roots of 3. And then we're going to do negative square root of 3, negative x square roots of 3, that'd be plus 2 square roots of 3. And then square root of 3 times square root of 3 is the square root of 9. It's a negative times a positive, so it's negative square roots of 9. However, we know that the square root of 9 is 3, so I'm going to do negative 3. Okay? Now, we'll just combine like terms like we would do in any other problem. X squared is by itself. There's no others. Negative 2x and negative 2x gives me a negative 4x. Now is where this gets kind of cleaned up real quick. It looks kind of crazy because I got this x square root of 3, but look, I have a negative x square root of 3 over here. So those, what we would say, cancel out. Become 0. And negative 2 square roots of 3 and positive 2 cancel out as well. I'm left with a 4 minus 3, which gives me a plus 1. And there's my equation, and I'm done. So that's a quick and dirty review over writing the quadratic equation for when we have given roots to us. So going the other way, as the title of the lesson said. Okay. Now, since I've got you here and I got a video going, we're going to do a quick example and help you while I'm gone of solving with the quadratic equation. So just remember the quadratic equation looks like this. All over 2a. Standard form of a quadratic looks like this. So that's the given information I need to know. And I'll give you 2 examples here. The first example I'm going to do will be 2x squared minus 6x plus 1. Remember, it always has to be equal to 0, so also remember here, First thing that I'm going to do is identify what A equals, B equals, and C equals. So A is the coefficient on x squared. It's not 2x squared, but just 2. B is the coefficient on x, and that's a -6. C is 1. Okay? Go ahead and input your given information into your equation. So I got a negative, or opposite of -6, plus and minus -6 squared minus 4 times 2 times 1 all over 2 times 1. From there, remember, we're just simplifying along the way. 2 negatives here give me a +6. 36 minus 4 times 2 times 1 is 8 all over 2. Okay, so 6 plus and minus the square root of 28 all over 2. And then the square root of 28, square root of 4 times the square root of 7 is the same thing as the square root of 28. So I'm going to have 6 plus and minus 2 square roots of 7. That's the square root of 4 is 2. All divided by 2. One thing I know about my fractions here, 2, I can divide these guys here. I can't divide the square root of 7 by 2, but I can divide the coefficient and my constant out here. So that's going to be x equals 3 plus and minus square root of 7. Oops, not over 2, I just got rid of that. So we can leave our answer like this, or I can split it up and say 3 plus the square root of 7, or x equals 3 minus the square root of 7. Okay, so that example should help you on your worksheet, the practice problems you're going to do while I'm gone. Let's see, I'll work through one more example for you here. Alright, so let's do one that, here's some space here quick. Let's do one that isn't written in standard form to begin with, and I guess I won't go too crazy on this, but if we did 5x squared plus 43x plus 59 equals 3. Again, nothing too intense there, but notice it's not equal to 0. It has to be equal to 0 in order to use the quadratic formula. Plus 56 equals 0, and then identify A, B, and C. 5, 43, and 56. So the other thing about this is that I guess the numbers are just big, and sometimes we get a little worked up when numbers are bigger here, but it's going to work out the exact same. 43 squared minus 4 times A is 5 times C is 56 all over 2 times 5. Okay? So I'm going to grab my calculator here, and I am going to do, well, I can do it right here on the screen for it. 43 times 43, not one I have memorized. 1,849. Okay, I also need to do 4 times 5 times 56. 1,120. Okay. So I'm just going to save myself a step writing it down, and I'm going to subtract those two. Oops, I messed that up. 1849 minus 1120 with my numbers. 729. So this guy up here simplifies to 729 all over 10. Now, 729 is a number that I recognize. I believe it's perfect square, so might not have that memorized, but 729 square root of 729 is 27 divided by 10. Okay, so I got two answers. X equals -43 plus 27 divided by 10, and x equals -43 minus 27 divided by 10. Okay. So mental math, or do that in your head, however you'd like to go about it. This one I get negative 16 over 10, which does simplify, I suppose, to negative 8/5. You could write that as negative 1 3/5 if you'd like. It doesn't matter to me. This problem here, what do I have? Negative 43 minus 27 should be negative 70 divided by 10. Negative 70 divided by 10 would be negative 7. Okay, so I've got two answers there. All right, so those two problems, I think, should help you work through solving those quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Remember, you can also solve them with factoring, as the directions on the back indicate. And just to review here, make sure each quadratic is written in standard form before you begin. X squared, x, your constant, and it has to be equal to 0. All right? Alrighty, thanks for watching, guys.